Let's comment the discussions, and please log on to our YouTube channel, My Joy Online. We have over 5,500 videos uploaded there, and we'll be very much grateful if you get to watch some of those discussions we've uploaded for you to make those comments, and then we relay some of those comments in the course of the whole program. More importantly, we also have the page on Facebook, Joy News on TV, and we also have a handle at Joy News on TV. Individually, we have Rewalker Ghana as a handle on Twitter, and at Mamavi Abuaje at that very page on Twitter as well. And so that's how it goes for us as far as social media is concerned. Let's now introduce our guests for the morning. And I have in the studio the General Secretary of the People's National Convention, the PNC, development economist, and Bernard Mona is my first guest for the morning. I follow that up with Davis Opoku, who is a spokesperson for the Pressure Group Alliance for Accountable Governance, known in many public circles as AFAG. Thanks for joining me, Davis.
Thank you.
Okay. We first would have to start with government's intention of going for what they call the best financing for the current fiscal year and the next. And it is the issuance of the eurobond. We're told that we've come to a certain decision on the subject, and we're hoping that we can raise some, is it 3.8 billion US dollars? And I have to start with you, Bernard. Your own thoughts on the subject.
Thank you so much. First, I think that it's important to posit that anytime we need to generate revenue, we need to mobilize for the gap or the deficit in our development. It's essential that we are able to do so, particularly at very low interest rates. What I do know is that over the years, we have gone for short-term loans that we have used to finance long-term projects. And what that means is that before the project is even completed, you have to start to pay the principal plus the interest on those loans that you have taken. It is important to go for long-term loans, long-term facilities to finance long-term projects. But if you go for quick fixes and then you take a short-term facility, come and invest in a long-term project, even before the project is completed, you are burdened with the responsibility of trying to repay the principal plus the interest. What that leads you to is that you start ab initio making losses, you start running difficulties, and you run into debt difficulties because the project has not even started, let alone breaking even and trying to probably overcome or make some profits out of it, out of which you may want to pay your debts. So over the years, this is what has characterized our going for facilities like this. I'm happy this time around there is a new focus. The focus is that let's go for long-term facilities to finance most of the developmental and capital-intensive projects. This, I hope, will be able to solve some of the problems that we have. You don't go for a 3-year facility to come and finance a 5-year project. You don't go for a 2-year facility to come and finance a 7-year project. But if you go for a 10-year project, for instance, to come and finance a 5-year 10-year facility to finance a 5-year project, what it means is that you are certain that you will be able to complete your projects, you will be able to start use of the project, possibly you will break even, and then you can go on with the interest or debt repayment. And I'm sure that that will go a long way. What I have said time without number is that why is Ghana still going out there and looking for money?
Why not?
We have everything in our country.
Like what?
We have everything in our country. And let me give you one thing. And I've said this, and you ought to listen carefully. Anytime we sit down and we talk about GDP, gross domestic product, of our country increasing, and therefore use that as a measure of development, I keep quiet and I get tired of it. You know what constitutes our GDP? And I've said this, I think, on this show. Let me repeat it. If you have a typical simple economy where your GDP is made up of oil, your GDP is made up of cocoa and gold, and I'm sure that it typifies the case of Ghana. Now, that is the bulk of our GDP. GDP means the things that are produced within the domestic economy, irrespective of which national produced it, which institutions produced it. So if you sum that, that will constitute our gross domestic product. But in reality, we don't own that. Because within the gold sector, for instance, you have only less than 5%. In the oil sector, you have about 13%. In the cocoa sector, maybe 40%. That should constitute what is owned by Ghana and nationals. The rest of it is not for you. So as soon as you calculate your GDP, the basis for which you think that you are developing, the next moment after the calculation, that money is out of your country. And therefore, we are left with nothing. What it means is that we own the resources, but we even own it. We don't own it. What it means is that we have them in our land, but some other people own it for us. You understand? Or own it for themselves. So if you have, for instance, 90%, 95% of gold revenue belonging to other nationals. So as soon as you calculate GDP, you will have less than 5% of that now remaining in your economy. So why is it that we use GDP instead of GNP, that's gross national product, as the basis for which we can measure our development?
You think that's real?
That tells the true picture of an economy. But why? Because people want to use that, and particularly for the multinationals, they are interested because they have their studios, they have their apparatchiks, if you want, working in our country. You understand? Working, and therefore they take the money and everything outside when they take. So they are excited about it, but they also go to do the GMP calculation, and they know that your economy is almost zero. These are the things that have hampered our ability to mobilize domestically. If you go, there cannot be any reason why some concessions are given. And you know what we do? In the gold sector, for instance, companies come, we give them 5 years tax concession. They don't pay anything. As soon as the companies start working and they are making their profit, when the 5 years is about ending, they go and change the name of the company and they fold up the old company. What it means is that they are cheating our nation for more than 40, 50 years because we have not. If we put our house together, we will not be going out there to raise eurobonds. Other people will come to our country because we are endowed with almost everything that we need in order to move.
And Davis, before I bring you in, I have on the line Dr. John Gachi. He is a lecturer with the University of Cape Coast Business School, actually a senior lecturer there. A very good morning to you, sir. We know that now we're told that government has now currently secured the 2.9 billion US dollar bids for the eurobond, and once that has been done on Thursday, the criticism from the other quarters that we have is that the negotiated yield on the bond stands at 8.12%, and that was lower than or higher than what really should be. And so it also means that the interest we're likely to pay monthly, or if it's annually, is that high. And monthly, according to the report, is being quoted in excess of some 40 million US dollars. That's huge, is that not it?
Hello.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you. I'm
saying the criticism on government going for another eurobond is the fact that the interest payment is huge. We're being told, according to the report, 40 million US dollars there it is.
Well, I think we all know that if you are going for to raise money internationally through the bond, you will definitely incur costs. I do not know whether we have any benchmark for which we are comparing the costs we are going to incur in the issuance of this cost. Of course, we are aware that because of development internationally and the macroeconomic situation of our country, coupled with the multiple ratings that we had, which downgraded our economy, we are aware that definitely the cost of this issuance will be relatively higher than before in terms of real money. But in terms of the percentage, I do not think that we can say so. But of course, the point I want to make is that I think everybody was expectant that the cost was going to be huge because of the development within and outside our economy.
Mm. But where would you put the advice? How would you advise government that, well, because we seem to have been borrowing in the domestic market the last couple of years, so if we're going for these bonds and these international facilities, is the best means by which we could get some form of access to financing for the various infrastructure projects and other targets that we have, either coming forward in the next fiscal period or currently on the budget?
I believe you will realize that if we were to be borrowing such amount of money domestically, we will be talking about interest rates within the region of 25 and above, which will be abysmal. So the best.
Well, the interest rates are already high, aren't they?
Yes. So the best approach is to go internationally. Of course, the international rate is far, far better than the internal one. I think the best advice that one can give is that the prospectus accompanying the bond document indicate clearly what the money is being is going to be used for. So having secured this money, I think the focus should be on how the money should be spent in an accountable manner in the area that have been outlined in the bond document that will help the economy come out its difficulty. I think that is what is crucial for me now, because one of the reasons for going into the market is to actually shore up the supply position of capital to finance infrastructure projects across the country, and at the same time use it as a cushion to support the strength of the city.
Now, we seem to be in a certain catch-22 situation. It's as if we can do something about it, but we can't do something about anything. How do we have perhaps the poor credit rating we have, or the lower credit rating we've been having recently, also affecting the type of rates we're likely to get when we want to access international financing?
Well, of course, if the investors agree with the credit rating agencies, then that will inform them when they are negotiating for the return that they expect if they invest in Ghanaian bonds. So definitely, those who acted on behalf of investors have taken all these issues into consideration before agreeing on the rate that you have quoted earlier on. So all those factors actually affected the coupon rate.
Would you advise government to go into the international market and raise another bond, perhaps in the next, before 2016?
Well, I think government has the opportunity to take more than the 1 billion, but they have decided to go in for only 1 billion. So I think they need to use that to solve the problem of the country, stabilize the economy before thinking of any decision as to whether they should go in for another eurobond. Of course, if the fiscal space allows for eurobond, the government can go into that. But if the fiscal space does not allow it, I do not think there is any reason to go in.
In you doing your analysis over the course of the current fiscal year, do you think government is borrowing too much?
Of course, if you look at the quantum, that conclusion is very clear, and everybody can see it in terms of the debt portfolio of the country. But the point must also be made whether the debt we have secured so far have been used in the area that have been outlined when they went into Parliament for approval, whether those things are on course, because that is my worry, that we may secure a lot of loans for the development of the country, but with time we may not be able to see the projects and the program that these loans have been secured for. If those loans have been able to finance specific key projects that have been outlined in the budget, in the document accompanying the loan, then one will believe that with time, the dividends from those projects will begin to sort out the economic difficulties surrounding the debt.
Okay.
So I think we should be focusing on that, because many people talk about high debt, but we are not interested in whether the debt have been used to generate assets for the country. That we should actually add this to the discussion.
Okay, and thank you very much. John Gachi is a chartered economist, but also a senior lecturer with the University of Cape Coast Business School. And thank you very much, Dr. Gachi. Davis, where he left off was that now the discussion should be, with all the monies that we've collected the last couple of years, have we been able to, in plain language, channel them into purposes that will see a lot more fiscal fruition and evidence for the ordinary Ghanaian in the next couple of years?
Well, I would say yes to it, because most of these finances come with some level of I mean, checks. I mean, there are some guidelines to it. So when you go for such monies,
you mean some conditions?
Some conditions. So certainly, if you're a government and you would want to enjoy more in the future, it's important that you go by the conditions. But my problem has to do with the level of at which we are borrowing. It's interesting that if today, when you look at our debt stock, which is equivalent to close to about 60% of our GDP, it tells you we are in a big problem as a country. We have a big challenge at hand as a country, and it's important that we look at that. I would agree with Bernard, where he says that we should look at how we are able to raise revenues domestically to, as it were, undertake most of these projects that we are talking about. When you look at the MPP administration, I mean, they were focusing more on how we're going to generate revenues internally. For instance, when you look at this main highway, I mean, the Insawam Road, this was a project that was mainly financed I mean, internally. So I'm shocked why consistently government would want to go out there and find monies to finance projects in this country. Yes, projects are important. We want infrastructural development. That's one way of developing our economy. But let's take a critical look at the rate at which we run to the outside world, the international markets and all that to raise revenue.
Well, it just shows that we have limited options.
Well, it also exposes government. It also exposes how weak or how government is not creative in generating funds internally, and it's something that we critically must look at. So yes, I agree with him. Let's look at how these loans have been beneficial to the country. What are the areas, the specific areas these monies will be channeled into? If it's infrastructure, what kind of infrastructure? Is it roads, or people are going to set up companies? How are we going to service these loans and all that? These are some of the pertinent questions that the people must know. The Ghanaian people must be told. Because I am at a loss. Why always we would run to the international market just to be able to raise funds? Yes, so I would urge government. We need clarity on some of these matters. We need some creativity in how we generate funds internally. That is the way to go for this country.
Now, Bernard, in your own submissions initially, you said, well, you thought we have everything, and a good management should be able to bring the best out of whatever resources we have. Now, here lies the case consistently. There's an indication that we'll be paying a lot more interest rates, coupled with all that we've already secured so far, whether locally or on the international front, as far as interest rates are concerned. Interests are concerned.
David made me to shake my head.
What did he say?
He said that
for you to remain very much unbelievable.
Well, he said that under MPP, so much was made to.
There was an effort.
Yeah, and he's talking about the Nsawam Accra Road. Yes, we say we should finance it through internally generated funds. It doesn't mean we did anything to augment the base of the internally generated funds. It was under the same period that we sold Ghana Telecom. which would have been making profit out of which some could have been used to finance projects like this. It was within the same period we sold the Ghana Airways, which could have been making profits.
Well, at the time, GT was not doing well. So.
Well, but if you know the telecommunication,
and Ghana Airways was also almost.
If you know what what it means is that we had difficulties in management. If you have difficulties in management, you don't sell your prime assets. It's like you own a house and somebody come and say that, well, you are getting poorer, so why don't you sell the house?
You can't pay the house, you can't maintain, so,
yeah,
sell, it.
Sell it. So you go and sell it and you go and rent and you think that you continue to have money. That is the situation that we have because we are selling our prime assets that we could turn around if we injected efficiency in management so that we'll be able to raise the needed money to support our economy. Not just those sectors alone, but we could expand. The other important thing that you ought to look at is that the last time we went for this eurobond, we took money from outside and we came and paid foreign contractors, to the chagrin and dismay of the local contractors who will stay the bulk of the money in our economy. Those foreign contractors, upon taking their money, simply had to go and settle their debts and pay their shareholders. So they took the money back to their country and left our economy dry. Most Ghanaian contractors suffered, and you can see that most Ghanaian contractors are not able to carry on with their projects.
Some are even folding up.
Some are folding up. It is my hope that this time around that we are going for this eurobond, we don't go and take euros and come and pay euro-owned contractors so that they will take the money out of the country. We should be able to come and put the money in the hands of the Ghanaian contractors. They will put more than 70% of that money in this economy. They will pay the local employees. They will ensure that the money stays in our economy, and therefore we'll have some stability. Just link up. Immediately after we went for the eurobond, you realize that we had crisis with our CD because we came and paid people and then they had to take the money quickly outside. You understand? So it had a serious economic impact on our currency and the depreciation of our CD. I just hope that this time around we are not going to resort to such reckless statements of releasing money to foreign contractors when we go out to borrow the money and then we come and give it to them again. It's like you went and took the money, you didn't put it even in your bag, and you gave it out there and there. That is what should not happen. So we should ensure that even as we are going there, unpalatable as it is to some of us, when the money comes, let us see that a chunk of the Ghanaian contractors
So in effect, all that you're saying is that the government doesn't put whatever financing it access into good use.
In the last one, I think that it was reckless to go and take money from outside and pay outsiders. When you have your own contractors who are doing everything within, who are not going anywhere, this is where they are. Who will put the money? The investment will be here. Who will ensure that their workers are paid and therefore increasing their ability to meet their needs in society?
Well, it also tells me that then we are not doing much for our local contractors because
not only that, other service providers as well, and
yes.
as well as the industry.
Yes, so we need to take a look at that. I mean, we have people in this country who have the competence and can I mean put up these infrastructures that we need. So let's do more of the domestic. I mean, let's prop up our local contractors, and I'm sure when such monies come, it can be channeled into their companies, which its effect will be felt across the country.
Okay, now let's turn our attention to proceedings at the ongoing sittings at the commission that's been put together by the president to investigate the Black Stars' participation and management at the World Cup. So far, proceedings.
Well, I am a sector. I'm encouraged by what I see each day on television. I mean, if we have the judge, that Justice Jamepe, I like his posture to issues. I mean, irrespective of your status in society, once there's an issue to be addressed, he puts it to you, and the Ghanaian people are getting to know what really went on during the World Cup stage in Brazil. When you look at the level of corruption, I mean, the breakdown of going by the due process, I mean, laid down procedures. You award contracts to people, and when they come, you tell them that contracts have been given to other people or the jobs have been given to some other people. It tells you the lack the lack of, structures. Going by the laid down structures in our ministries, and it's important. This should not only serve as a platform where we get to know what really transpires at the ministry or the sports ministries. This very commission should lead to some structural changes in our civil whatever, in our ministries, in our civil service, because there's total breakdown of I don't know how to put it, but people are not going by what it should be done at the various ministries, and it's worrying. I would want to see the president of this country, take a very serious look at the report. If this commission finishes its work, we want to see what the president would do. If people must be jailed on this matter, we want to see the president cracking the whip, and it's important that we send a signal out there that this corrupt practices is something
all
that is
actions
eating
can only
up.
be taken by the president.